a Predator 212 is hands down the best engine you can get for your go-kart, but with that comes the limiting factors that this motor has. With that being said, we're going to dive into the essential parts that I put on this motor to basically create the most bulletproof package for anyone who wants high revving, horsepower, reliability. This is the recipe. So with that being said, welcome back to another video, guys. Obviously, the 212 is the best engine you can get. It's basically like a K series for a drift car, you know, or an LS. It's like the most common thing you can do. With that, you know, go-karts are meant to be this reliable, cheap, super fun thing that you can just go do, that, you know, you don't have to blow a bunch of money on a nice car, rip on it, and get that itch out that you've got. So when you start modifying one of these things, you're gonna do a stage 1 kit. Everybody starts there: intake, exhaust, fuel jet. That gives you a good baseline of how quick you can make more horsepower, and it's like, okay, this engine's got some more juice in it, so we're gonna push the limit even more. We're gonna do a governor removal. We're gonna probably put a new carb on it, something to spice this thing up, right? Now, once you start doing that and you really start pushing the go-kart, you know, you're going to find the limits, but the problem with that is a lot of things are going to start to fail, and you want to stop yourself before that even happens. You want to actually prevent that by doing the essential upgrades. So with those limiting factors, we've got the rod. Of course, it's not very strong. It's not meant for those high revving situations. Also, the valve springs and rockers are not that strong either. We've seen those crack several times. And then you have the flywheel. Is not great either. The bolts actually back out on the magnetic part of the flywheel, which, you know, damages the ignition coil, flies everywhere. Metal pieces are going in different directions. It's the last thing you want. You don't want that thing to blow up and, you know, cause damage. That's what happened to me, was my flywheel blew up the ignition coil and I had pieces hit me in the head. You don't want that. Luckily, I was wearing a helmet. It's just one of those reasons why you should also have a helmet. So aside from those things, you know, you're pushing this thing pretty heavy. You're adding compression by putting a new rod and stuff like that. Your push rods that come off the cam that activate your valves, those also are very weak, so you want to upgrade those. Those are super cheap, which is really nice. And then your valves are actually good enough to withstand that. Your cam is good enough. Your crankshaft is good enough. So basically, it's just those essential things. You want your rod, push rods, your valve springs, your rockers, and then you want to make sure you have some sort of crankcase ventilation system, because your side cover can only handle so much pressure, but since you're adding to it with higher revs, higher compression in the motor, it's going to back out those bolts. You're going to leak oil everywhere. That side cover's gasket is just going to be gone. So make sure you add a ventilation. When you do all these mods, it's essential to actually pull the gear off the crankshaft, because there's actually a metal gear on there, so you want less rotating mass on your motor. You want that little pin that's plastic in there, you want that gone. All the little washers, sensors, everything, you want everything gone. You want to make sure this thing is 100% sealed. Nothing to get loose, nothing to hold this motor back from making the most power possible, of course. So that is basically the recipe for achieving good, strong, reliable power. Your motor's going to be really happy. It's going to be healthy. It's going to run strong. You're going to feel that efficiency, you know, the high compression. You're going to feel more power. Now, obviously, there could be more done, but, you know, it comes with little things you add here and there, your own spice to it. So, you know, I'm going to dive into all the other little things that I've done. This is my personal motor build, so these are totally optional pieces, but, you know, some things are for show, some things are for power, and it all varies. It depends on what you decide to go with. You can see I've added a new carburetor. Now, I actually really like this carburetor from Nibby. You can get it on Amazon. This is where I got this one, as well as this adapter. Now, you can get really short adapters, but the problem I had was that the short adapter was going to clear the wheel, but I am going to run PVC and it's going to be even closer. So to give myself that cushion, I went with an extended intake manifold adapter. Now, of course, it's not just for looks and placement, but also in an NA application, give yourself a longer intake runner. It actually helps produce higher end horsepower. It kind of moves the power band higher up in the RPM range. When you have a shorter one, it actually gives you a lot more power down low. But because these engines are super torquey and we're going to be running PVC, you want to grip down low, but you want to be able to shift that power range higher up in the range so that you can get even more wheel speed and power on bigger and longer drifts. So that is why I chose to go with a longer intake manifold there. The new carburetor runs phenomenal. I've done revving tests that I will show you guys in another video, but this thing is just beautiful. Of course, I'm probably going to mess around with it to get it exactly the way I like, but I've had absolutely no issues. The packaging was perfect. It's the most beautiful carburetor I've ever seen, and I'm very happy with it. I will leave a link to all these parts down below. Of course, we have our Tons Racing ignition coil, which is absolutely beautiful. I stayed with the red and black theme on this go-kart. It's kind of the Predator signature look, and I think it suits it really well. 8mm MSD coil, just absolutely beautiful from eBay. It fits up just like factory, looks absolutely amazing. For the throttle cable, you can get any one that suits your application, whatever distance you want and stuff off Amazon. You just want to make sure it has the little ball that suits the piece inside, because if you have a bigger one than it requires, then it will hold your carburetor throttle up, and you won't know why. That when you try to get it to idle, it revs out. That's why you have to have the small ball to fit in there. Obviously, this is just a show piece. You can actually run the stock valve cover with a lifter kit, and then it has the vents, but I decided to go with the bougier version. This will also be linked down below for you guys. And then I added the PCV system. So this is actually the ventilation I was talking about from the crankcase to equalize power, or equalize the pressure from the crankcase to the head of the block, and then also vent that. This PVC allows, or PCV allows no oil to get out, just the pressure that's built up inside. So when it equalizes in here and drips the excess oil onto the head components, it's also evaporating the excess pressure when we're revving this thing really high. The next thing, I went with a long tube exhaust with a muffler. So because I'm also running this long exhaust, it makes it really loud. So running a muffler is almost a necessity at this point. I've done some revving with and without the muffler, and it's definitely, it's a very significant difference. Much louder without the muffler. I think we're gonna try to sneak the go-kart into a few different areas, trying to drive it more often, and with that, we're gonna wanna run the muffler there. So obviously I have push rods, rockers, Champion rockers, by the way, valve springs, valve spring retainers. I went with billet ones, just go a little extra spice on there. I went with 22-pound springs because if you were to upgrade to a 26-pound spring, they recommend that you upgrade your push rod buckets that sit on your cam. But since mine are stock, I went with the 22s because it should be fine to prevent valve float with that pound of spring. If I were to do it again, I would probably upgrade the springs to 26 and do the bucket billet and then do a bigger cam, and that would be enough spice for this motor. I'm looking for reliability, and with the budget I had, this is the route I decided to go. All that's left to do is connect the chain and we're good to drive this thing and fully rip on it with our built motor. So that is it. If you want to bulletproof your motor, that's the mod list. It's down below. Check it out. The website should be live, hopefully. I'm trying to work on that slow. So bear with me. I'm gonna put a few parts, but eventually when I get the website all up, then I'll put the link to that, and that should have everything for you guys. So if you guys are building a motor and you need help, let me know in the comments down below. What else do you guys want to see from this go-kart test wise? Any questions you guys have, just let me know, and I'd love to help you guys out. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Remember to subscribe, stay tuned for more content, because we are drifting this thing very soon, and I couldn't be more excited, bro. Come on. Peace.